Al-Shabaab now controls the major roads leading in and out of Mogadishu, effectively isolating the capital. For the first time in decades, the terrorist organization has achieved what military analysts thought impossible, cutting off most land routes and establishing control over key infrastructure in the suburbs and approaches to the city. What makes this particularly alarming is the speed at which it happened. Between February 20th and mid-April, Al-Shabaab seized key towns, tightening the noose on Mogadishu, while over 1.4 million people have been internally displaced since February. The Somali government's response has been virtually non-existent, and the implications for the Horn of Africa are staggering. But to understand how Al-Shabaab achieved this tactical breakthrough, we first need to examine just how catastrophically Somalia's institutions have deteriorated. Somalia's catastrophic 2025 rankings. The numbers tell a devastating story. Somalia has actually gotten worse on every single measurement of state failure in recent years, and that's remarkable considering the country has held the bottom position on most global indices for over 2 decades. The question that emerges from this data is what catastrophic factors have pushed an already broken nation even further into institutional collapse. Somalia remained at the top of the 2024 Fragile States Index with a score indicating it surpassed even Afghanistan despite the Taliban takeover. The index measures 12 key indicators including demographic pressures, refugees and internally displaced persons, group grievances, human flight, uneven development, poverty, state legitimacy, public services, human rights, security apparatus, factionalized elites, and external intervention. Somalia now ranks dead last across multiple governance indices, indicating near total institutional collapse. The corruption metrics paint an even bleaker picture. Somalia scored 9 out of 100 in the 2024 Corruption Perceptions Index, the second lowest ever measured by Transparency International. The World Bank's worldwide governance indicators show Somalia scoring in the bottom percentile across all 6 dimensions of governance, including voice and accountability, political stability, government effectiveness, regulatory quality, rule of law, and control of corruption. These scores indicate complete institutional breakdown at every level of government function. When compared to other failed states, Somalia's deterioration stands out dramatically. Yemen, despite its ongoing civil war, scored 25 on the Corruption Index. Haiti, experiencing gang violence and political chaos, managed a score of 17. Afghanistan under Taliban rule scored 20. Even Syria, after more than a decade of civil war, scored 14. Somalia's score represents a level of institutional collapse that exceeds every other crisis-affected nation on Earth. The poverty indicators reveal the human cost of this institutional failure. About 2/3 of Somalis live in multidimensional poverty, lacking access to food, shelter, and basic services. The World Food Program reports that 6.9 million Somalis require humanitarian assistance, representing 42% of the total population. Acute malnutrition rates have reached 23% among children under 5, exceeding emergency thresholds throughout most of the country. The breakdown of basic services has accelerated dramatically. Healthcare infrastructure exists in name only outside Mogadishu, with the World Health Organization documenting that 89% of health facilities in rural areas are either non-functional or provide only the most basic services. Educational services have collapsed entirely in regions outside government control, with UNICEF reporting that 3.7 million children are out of school. The electrical grid serves less than 12% of the population, concentrated almost entirely in Mogadishu and a few other urban centers. Water and sanitation infrastructure has deteriorated to the point where 70% of the population lacks access to safe drinking water. Law enforcement outside Mogadishu has ceased to exist in any meaningful form. The African Union Mission in Somalia reports that Somali federal police have effective presence in fewer than 30 locations nationwide. Criminal violence has surged in areas where neither government forces nor Al-Shabaab maintain control. The UN Office on Drugs and Crime documents a 340% increase in reported kidnappings, a 280% increase in armed robbery, and a 190% increase in extortion. Piracy off the Somali coast has returned to levels not seen since 2012, with 18 vessels attacked in the first half of 2025 compared to 3 in all of 2024. The democratic legitimacy crisis has reached a breaking point. Somalia has not held nationwide legislative elections since 1969, a period of 56 years that represents one of the longest democratic gaps in modern history. The current federal parliament was selected through a clan-based system in 2022 that the African Union described as fundamentally flawed. Regional elections scheduled for 2025 have been postponed indefinitely due to security concerns. Opinion polling by the Somali Public Agenda shows that only 11% of citizens trust the federal government, while 67% believe the country is heading in the wrong direction. Foreign direct investment has effectively ceased, with the UN Conference on Trade and Development reporting negative flows, meaning more foreign investment left the country than entered it. The banking sector remains underdeveloped, with only 15% of adults having access to formal financial services. Remittances from the diaspora, traditionally a crucial source of foreign currency, have declined by 23% due to increased scrutiny of money transfer operations and reduced income among diaspora communities. These metrics create a perfect storm that explains Al-Shabaab's rapid territorial gains. The absence of effective governance creates a vacuum that extremist organizations can fill. The collapse of economic opportunities drives recruitment for armed groups. The failure of security institutions removes the primary obstacle to territorial expansion. The breakdown of social services allows groups like Al-Shabaab to gain legitimacy by providing basic functions that the state cannot. The democratic legitimacy crisis means the federal government cannot rally popular support against insurgent advances. What emerges from this data is a state that has moved beyond traditional definitions of failure into complete institutional collapse. But these rankings only tell part of the story. To understand how Al-Shabaab achieved such rapid success, we need to examine exactly how much territory Somalia's federal government actually controls. The government that controls almost nothing. Government control is now limited to scattered pockets around Mogadishu and rare corridors along major roads. This represents a dramatic decline from previous years, and the trajectory suggests further contraction as various regions formalize their independence from federal authority. In late 2024, Puntland formally rejected federal oversight, deepening Somalia's fragmentation. The regional parliament in Garo voted to sever all ties with the federal government, establishing independent diplomatic relations and assuming full control over taxation, security, and resource management. Puntland's leadership cited the federal government's inability to provide basic services or security as justification for the split. The region now operates its own customs facilities, issues its own identification documents, and maintains direct relationships with international partners, including the United Nations and European Union. Puntland controls approximately 26% of Somalia's territory, making it larger than many recognized nations. Somaliland's growing international recognition has effectively removed another substantial portion of Somalia from federal control. The region has demonstrated far greater stability and governance capacity than the federal government, operating independently since 1991. Ethiopia formalized its recognition of Somaliland in March 2025, establishing full diplomatic relations and opening an embassy in Hargeisa. These developments bypass Mogadishu entirely, with international partners treating Somaliland as a sovereign entity. The region controls approximately 28% of Somalia's territory and maintains its own military, currency, and government institutions. Jubaland's move toward complete autonomy has created an active conflict zone with federal forces. The regional government in Kismayo declared its intention to assume full sovereignty in February 2025, leading to direct military confrontations with federal troops. The most significant clash occurred in March when Jubaland forces defeated a federal military convoy attempting to assert control over the Kismayo airport. The federal government lost 34 soldiers in engagement, while Jubaland forces suffered minimal casualties. Since then, Jubaland has established checkpoints along its borders with federal-controlled territory and begun collecting customs duties independently. The region controls the strategically important Kismayo port and maintains its own security forces estimated at 4,500 troops. The clan-based control systems that govern most rural areas operate completely independent of federal authority. Traditional clan elders maintain law and order through customary legal systems that predate the modern Somali state. These systems collect taxes, resolve disputes, and provide basic services without any reference to federal laws or institutions. The Rahanweyn Clan Confederation controls large portions of Bay and Bakul regions through traditional governance structures. The Dared clan maintains autonomous control over vast areas of the northeast through similar systems. The federal government has no presence in these clan-controlled territories and cannot influence their decisions or policies. The Islamic State in Somalia has carved out distinct territories in the northeast, creating another layer of fragmentation. Intelligence estimates place ISIS Somalia at around 300 to 400 fighters in remote areas of Puntland, despite the regional government's opposition. The group controls portions of the Golis Mountains and operates training camps in remote locations. The group has established its own taxation system in controlled areas and provides basic services to gain local support. Their presence creates a three-way conflict dynamic between federal forces, regional authorities, and extremist groups. The federal government's inability to collect taxes outside Mogadishu demonstrates the practical limits of its authority. Revenue collection in 2025 totaled just $287 million, with 89% coming from a capital city and Mogadishu International Airport. The government cannot collect customs duties at most border crossings, cannot tax economic activity in regional capitals, and cannot access revenue from major ports outside its control. This financial weakness reinforces the cycle of state failure, as the government cannot fund the security forces or services needed to extend its authority. Law enforcement capacity beyond Mogadishu has effectively ceased to exist. The Somali police force operates fewer than 300 officers outside the capital, concentrated in small outposts along major roads. These officers lack vehicles, communications equipment, and weapons necessary for effective policing. Most criminal cases in rural areas are handled by traditional courts or ignored entirely. The federal government cannot investigate crimes, arrest suspects, or prosecute cases in the majority of the country's territory. Health services outside Mogadishu function only through NGOs, as government clinics have effectively collapsed. The federal government maintains minimal functioning schools outside the capital, serving only a fraction of the population. The government cannot provide electricity, water, or sanitation services to rural populations. These basic functions are either provided by international aid organizations, regional governments, or clan-based systems. This fragmentation has created multiple competing power centers that claim to speak for Somalia. International partners must navigate relationships with the federal government, Puntland, Somaliland, Jubaland, and various clan leaders to conduct business in different parts of the country. The African Union maintains separate liaison offices for each major region. The United Nations operates through different local partners, depending on the territory. This complexity makes coordinated international response extremely difficult. The territorial fragmentation has created optimal conditions for Al-Shabaab's 2025 offensive. The group can exploit the gaps between different authorities, moving freely through areas where no single entity maintains control. They can play competing authorities against each other, forming temporary alliances when convenient. The absence of coordinated security responses allows Al-Shabaab to mass forces for attacks while avoiding effective retaliation. The federal government cannot call upon regional authorities for support, as those authorities view federal weakness as an opportunity to expand their own influence. Most critically, the fragmentation means that even if the federal government wanted to mount an effective response to Al-Shabaab's advance, it lacks the territorial control, resources, and legitimacy necessary to do so. The siege of Mogadishu represents not just a military defeat, but the logical conclusion of a state that has ceded authority over most of its territory to competing power centers. But understanding this institutional collapse only explains the opportunity Al-Shabaab exploited. The real question is how a ragtag militia transformed itself into the most formidable military force operating in Somalia today. Al-Shabaab's evolution into a military superpower. The answer lies in a systematic transformation that took nearly 2 decades to complete. Al-Shabaab emerged from a wreckage of the Islamic Courts Union in 2006, initially formed as the militant wing of a broader religious movement that briefly controlled Mogadishu. The group's name translates to the youth in Arabic, reflecting its origins as a collection of young fighters frustrated with Somalia's endless chaos. When Ethiopian forces invaded Somalia in 2006 to overthrow the Islamic Courts Union, Al-Shabaab became the primary resistance force. The Ethiopian occupation provided the group with a nationalist cause that transcended religious ideology, allowing them to recruit from clans and communities that opposed foreign intervention. The transformation from a loosely organized militia into a sophisticated insurgency took place between 2007 and 2012. During this period, Al-Shabaab established training camps in remote areas of southern Somalia, developed recruitment networks throughout the region, and began implementing strict Islamic law in territories under their control. The group studied insurgent tactics from conflicts in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Pakistan, adapting these strategies to the specific conditions of Somalia. They developed expertise in improvised explosive devices, suicide bombings, and guerrilla warfare techniques that would become their signature methods. The 2012 Pledge of Allegiance to Al-Qaeda marked a critical turning point in Al-Shabaab's evolution. This formal alliance brought international recognition, technical expertise, and financial support that transformed the group's operational capabilities. Al-Qaeda provided training in advanced bomb-making techniques, communications security, and operational planning. The relationship also connected Al-Shabaab to a global network of extremist organizations, facilitating the exchange of fighters, weapons, and intelligence. Foreign fighters began arriving in Somalia, bringing expertise in urban warfare, complex attack planning, and international terrorism methods. Intelligence sources estimate that Al-Shabaab now commands approximately 15,000 active combatants, making it larger than many national armies. The group maintains a core of full-time fighters who receive regular salaries and undergo intensive training. Additional part-time fighters can be mobilized for specific operations, including local militia members, seasonal fighters, and sympathizers who provide logistical support. The group's weapon systems have evolved far beyond the small arms and improvised devices they once relied upon. Al-Shabaab now possesses heavy machine guns, rocket-propelled grenades, mortars, and anti-aircraft weapons captured from government forces or purchased through international arms markets. They have demonstrated proficiency with vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices capable of destroying reinforced buildings. The group has also developed sophisticated improvised explosive devices that can penetrate armored vehicles and defeat electronic countermeasures. Intelligence reports indicate they have acquired night vision equipment, communications gear, and GPS systems that enable coordinated operations across multiple fronts. Al-Shabaab's command structure has evolved into a sophisticated military organization capable of coordinating complex multi-front operations. The group operates under a centralized leadership council that makes strategic decisions while regional commanders maintain tactical autonomy within their areas of operation. This structure allows for rapid decision-making at the operational level while maintaining overall strategic coherence. The group has established specialized units for different types of operations, including intelligence gathering, bomb-making, recruitment, and media operations. Al-Shabaab funds operations through local taxation and extortion across southern Somalia. The group collects taxes from businesses, transportation, and agricultural activities in territories under their control. They operate checkpoints along major roads, collecting fees from commercial vehicles and passengers. The group has established an extensive extortion network that targets businesses throughout Somalia, including those in government-controlled areas. Smuggling operations provide another major revenue source, with Al-Shabaab facilitating the movement of goods, weapons, and people across Somalia's porous borders. The group has developed relationships with criminal networks throughout East Africa, taking percentages from various illegal activities. They have also established legitimate businesses that serve as fronts for money laundering and provide additional income streams. Al-Shabaab's recruitment strategies have expanded well beyond Somalia's borders, drawing fighters from across East Africa and beyond. The group operates recruitment networks in Kenya, Ethiopia, Uganda, and Tanzania, targeting young men facing economic hardship and political marginalization. They have also attracted fighters from Europe, North America, and the Middle East through sophisticated online propaganda campaigns. The group's recruitment materials emphasize both religious obligation and economic opportunity, offering salaries that exceed what many young men can earn in legitimate employment. Al-Shabaab collects local taxes and runs rudimentary courts, filling the service gaps left by the federal government. Their ability to provide security, resolve disputes, and maintain basic services contrasts sharply with the government's inability to function outside Mogadishu. This governance capacity has translated into popular support in some areas, making Al-Shabaab's territorial control more sustainable than simple military occupation. The military evolution that has occurred over nearly 2 decades has made Al-Shabaab more dangerous. In 2025 and at any point in their history, they combine the tactical flexibility of an insurgent group with the organizational capacity of a conventional military force. Their financial resources, weapon systems, and command structure now exceed those of the government they fight against. The group has demonstrated the ability to plan and execute complex operations while maintaining security that prevents government infiltration of their leadership structure. U.S. airstrikes supported government offensives until 2022, degrading Al-Shabaab's positions temporarily. But the group's resilience and adaptability have allowed them to recover from these setbacks and emerge stronger than before. Their current capabilities represent the culmination of years of strategic planning, organizational development, and tactical innovation that has transformed them into Somalia's most formidable military force. This transformation explains how Al-Shabaab achieved what seemed impossible just years ago. But their current success builds upon lessons learned from previous encounters with government forces, particularly from the 2022 victory that became a strategic disaster. Between August and November 2022, Somalia achieved what seemed impossible. The federal government launched the largest military operation in its modern history, driving Al-Shabaab from strategic territories across central Somalia that had remained under insurgent control for nearly a decade. The operation captured international attention as proof that Somalia was finally turning the corner in its fight against extremism. The reality that emerged 3 years later reveals how that apparent success created the exact conditions that enabled Al-Shabaab's 2025 siege of Mogadishu. The offensive began with simultaneous attacks across the Hiran and Middle Shabelle regions, targeting Al-Shabaab strongholds, including Adan Yabal, El Baraf, and Made. Federal forces, supported by local clan militias and African Union troops, launched coordinated assaults involving an estimated 8,000 Somali troops, 3,500 clan militia fighters, and 2,200 African Union soldiers. The operation represented the most ambitious government military campaign since the formation of the current federal system. The strategy that enabled success relied on using elite shock troops to capture territory, while regular forces maintained control. The Danube Special Forces, trained and equipped by the United States, spearheaded the initial assaults. These 850 elite soldiers possessed advanced weapons, night vision equipment, and communication systems that gave them decisive advantages over Al-Shabaab fighters. The plan called for Danube forces to rapidly capture objectives, then withdraw to prepare for the next assault while regular Somali National Army units occupied the captured territory. The Danube Special Forces performed with exceptional effectiveness during the assault phase. The unit successfully captured 23 towns and strategic positions over 6 weeks, following a consistent pattern of pre-dawn assaults supported by intelligence from local clan leaders. Their casualty rate remained remarkably low, with only 12 soldiers killed and 34 wounded across all operations. Their success rate in capturing assigned objectives reached 94%, demonstrating tactical proficiency that matched international special operations standards. United States airstrikes provided crucial support that made the territorial gains possible. American forces conducted 47 airstrikes between August and November 2022, targeting Al-Shabaab leadership, weapons caches, and defensive positions. The strikes eliminated key commanders and destroyed heavy weapons that could have been used against advancing government forces. AFRICOM reported that the airstrikes killed approximately 230 Al-Shabaab fighters and destroyed 18 technical vehicles, 6 weapons storage facilities, and 3 training camps. African Union forces provided essential logistical support and backup firepower during the offensive. ATMIS troops secured supply lines, provided medical evacuation capabilities, and offered heavy weapons support when government forces encountered strong resistance. The Ethiopian and Kenyan contingents within ATMIS were particularly important, as they possessed armored vehicles and artillery systems that Somali forces lacked. This international support created a force multiplication effect that enabled the relatively small number of effective Somali troops to achieve outsized results. The strategy worked perfectly when Somalia maintained the initiative and could concentrate forces for specific objectives. The rapid capture of territory prevented Al-Shabaab from organizing effective counterattacks. The coordination between special forces, regular troops, and international partners created tactical advantages that Al-Shabaab could not match. The offensive demonstrated that the federal government could actually defeat Al-Shabaab when it could mass sufficient forces and maintain operational momentum. However, the transition from offensive to defensive operations exposed fatal vulnerabilities. The vast territories captured during the offensive required permanent garrisons to prevent Al-Shabaab from simply reoccupying abandoned positions. This meant spreading the limited number of effective troops across dozens of locations, diluting their combat effectiveness. The Danube Special Forces, designed for rapid assault operations, found themselves manning static defensive positions in remote outposts. The regular Somali National Army units tasked with holding captured territory proved inadequate for the mission. These forces lacked the training, equipment, and leadership necessary for effective defensive operations. Morale problems became apparent as soldiers found themselves stationed in hostile territory with limited supplies and irregular pay. Desertion rates among regular units reached 35% by mid-2023, forcing commanders to rely increasingly on local clan militias who had their own agendas and loyalty issues. Al-Shabaab used the 2022 to 2024 period to conduct detailed analysis of Somali tactics and develop specific countermeasures. The group studied government assault patterns, identified weaknesses in defensive positions, and developed new tactics designed to exploit these vulnerabilities. Intelligence reports indicate that Al-Shabaab conducted extensive reconnaissance of government positions, mapping defensive layouts and identifying the most vulnerable outposts. They also studied the rotation schedules of different units, learning when elite forces were present and when positions were held by less capable troops. The insurgent group developed specialized tactics for attacking static defensive positions. They perfected the use of vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices against fortified positions, developed infiltration techniques that exploited gaps in government security, and created diversionary tactics that could draw elite forces away from critical positions. Al-Shabaab also adapted their recruitment and training programs to prepare for the type of warfare they would face against entrenched government forces. The apparent victory of 2022 created strategic overconfidence that blinded Somali leadership to the emerging vulnerabilities. The successful offensive convinced government officials that they had found a winning formula against Al-Shabaab. This led to continued expansion of territorial control without addressing the fundamental problems of force quality, logistics, and defensive capabilities. The government committed increasing numbers of troops to holding territory, while Al-Shabaab concentrated their forces for coordinated assault.